everyone. So yes, indeed, thank you for the introduction and for the invitation. My name is Geert De Pauw. I'm a coordinator at Community Land Trust Brussels, and I'll explain you a bit about our organization, where it comes from, how we operate, and also what then Laura can explain how the CALICO project fits into this. I'll share my screen now. Is it okay? Can you see my screen?
Yes, we
okay.
can. Thank you.
Okay. So Community Land Trust Brussels, where does it come from? Well, it is a community land trust, and community land trusts originated in the United States, and one of the sources of inspiration of CLT is someone that some of you might know. It's called Henry George, who was a 19th century thinker who asked himself the question how at that time it was possible that there was in the period of industrial revolution, there was so much wealth, yet so much poverty in the same time. A question that still sounds familiar to us, and his analysis was that one of the reasons was that was the way land ownership was organized, and the fact that someone who is lucky enough to own land can appropriate all the profit that is generated, in fact, by the community, because the fact that land increases in value, the owner of the land hasn't done anything to deserve this. And Henry George came up with a solution of a single tax on land ownership, which is not what community land trusts do, but they are really inspired by the same idea that land ownership should be organized differently to be more social just. The actual community land trust in the United States, they originated from the civil rights movement in the South after they got the theoretically equal rights. Many of the populations, especially in the South, still had to work for the same white landowners and still were in the same oppressed situation. And they thought that one of the solutions could be to have access to land, to own land and to own it collectively. And the first CLT is created in the South at the beginning of the 1970s. Called New Communities, and started the community land trust movement. From there on, first in the United States, in several states, new CLTs were created, and the model developed also more into something that could also be used for housing in an urban context. And an important step for CLTs was also the fact that in the city of Burlington, the mayor of Burlington in the 1980s, who was Bernie Sanders, decided to support the community land trust there. It was the first city-supported community land trust, and the Champlain Housing Trust today is still one of the biggest CLTs in the world, and very active also in promoting the model. That's how we in Brussels learned about community land trust, in fact. So what is it? What is a community land trust? There's a non-profit organization who owns land for the benefit of the community, who develops on that land permanently affordable housing, but also other functions, such as community space, businesses, workshops, etc. and a community land trust is democratically governed by the community. I'll go into all of these elements now. So the first one is it's an innovative model of tenure, because whereas in most of the cases, the owner of the land owns automatically everything that's built on that land, in a community land trust, it's different. The ownership of the land is separated from the ownership of the building. The land is community owned, whereas the building in many cases in Brussels is owned by the individual owners, but there are other formulas where, for instance, the land is owned by the CLT and the building is owned by a cooperative, for instance, as this is also the topic of your meeting. There are a lot of examples where the community land trust model is combined with the cooperative model. And then, as I said, I call it community land, but of course, this has to be organized in a legal way. And in fact, the land in a community land trust is owned by the community land trust, which is a non-profit organization that is governed in a way to represent the community the best way possible. And concretely, that means that a community land trust is a membership organization. All the residents, so all the people living on community land trust land, automatically are member of the CLT, but also other members of the community can become and are invited to become members. So the neighbors of these CLT homes, for instance, or associations, etc., can become member of the association. And the board of the community land trust is are representatives of these associations. And a typical community land trust, 1/3 of the board members are residents, 1/3 are other community members, and 1/3 are representatives of the local government or public officials. And then one of the most important items of a community land trust is that they guarantee permanent affordability. How do they do it? Well, first of all, when they sell for the first time their homes, the buyers don't have to pay the land, so it's cheaper. But the real innovation of community land trust is that they guarantee that the homes stay affordable forever, in fact. Whereas we know a lot of public policy that helps people to become homeowner. Typically, this policy helps one family, the first family who receives the subsidies, to make it to help them buy a home. But afterwards, these homes, when the first homeowners resell them, the homes are no longer affordable. In a community land trust, we can guarantee that the homes stay affordable forever, because people who buy a home, they also accept the resale formula that will limit the resale price. So where does it come from in Brussels? In Brussels, we were the first to apply the community land trust outside of the Anglo-Saxon world. That, as I said, it was already very much developed in the United States. In the UK, there was also already a few community land trusts. But in the rest of Europe, for instance, nobody knew about them. But in Brussels, as in many other cities in Europe and elsewhere in the world, we were confronted with a housing crisis, an increase of the housing prices from the year 2000 on. Brussels has always been a rather affordable city, a city with very few social housing compared to our neighbor countries. And so as housing prices started to increase, there was no really an alternative because people could not go to social housing, and it took a very, very long time before the, let's say, the public sector started to build new homes, new social housing. So there was really a need for more affordable housing, but we thought also a need for another way of doing affordable housing. When I say we, it is a group of people and organizations who were involved in the right in the fight for the right to housing, let's say, and most of us were already involved in housing projects. And we really were looking for something that, well, there was a solution to develop a permanently affordable housing, so not only temporary solutions like squatting, for instance, or other solutions, but something that was permanent, but also something in which the people in housing need could play an active role, not just developing something for them, but have them with us as a partner. And so while looking for a solution, we explored the possibilities of the cooperative model, and then we heard about the community land trust model. And for us, it was really exactly what we were looking for. We had the possibility to go to the United States to visit the Champlain Housing Trust, and from then on we started organizing and advocating for CLT in Brussels. And quite soon, in fact, we received the support from the Brussels regional government, because in Belgium it is the regional governments who are in charge of housing policy. And we had the possibility to do a feasibility study, and we got a first grant to buy 2 pieces of land and do 2 pilot projects. And from there on, gradually, the support of the region has increased. We receive a yearly investment budget, whereas in the beginning, it was really every time pilots, with a lot of insecurity. Now, the last couple of years, we have been recognized. There is a regional law that recognizes community land trusts. And we also have a partnership agreement now with the region, which gives us more security and stability than we had in the past. On the other hand, of course, this makes us more like a regional instrument, and one of the things we have to be cautious about is that we don't want to lose our autonomy, of course. So, community land trust today, we have some 1,500 members. Most of them are applicant homeowners, so people who want to buy one of our homes have to become a member. As a member, they have their say in the General Assembly. We have 111 occupied homes. They are all collective housing projects, so 6 different projects in different communities, different municipalities in Brussels, and more or less the same number of homes in preparation or in building. And then we have an operating budget of 900,000 euros. Half of that comes from the Brussels region, and the rest is project subsidies or grants from foundations. And then an investment budget of 3 million a year, which we use to buy land and to pay part of the building costs too, because people, in our case, people will not pay the complete price of the building. In my explanation, I said that it's cheaper because they don't buy the land, but in reality, they won't buy the land, and even part of the building is subsidized too. Otherwise, it would not be affordable for our target group. So yeah, this is a little picture to show what is the impact we want. And of course, in the center is permanently affordable, sustainable housing for the Brussels region, and we are active in the whole of the Brussels region. But around it, there are other objectives that are very important for us. One is the empowerment of the residents, because I'll show you how we organize these housing projects, and one of the goals there is really to give a central role to the residents or the future residents, and by doing that also helping them to come to this empowerment, building resilient communities, working on a democratic governance system, and then also try to, by showing that it's possible, try to advocate for another and fairer property system. Who are the residents of our projects? It's all people who are eligible for social housing, so it's exactly the same income categories of people who live in social rental housing in Brussels. We work with different income categories in order to, as I said, the price of our homes is not the building cost minus the cost of the land. It is our prices are well, we try to have prices that are affordable for all of these, all of the target group. As I said, it's people who are eligible for social housing, but that goes from people with, let's say, one income from labor, but there are also a lot of people who don't have. Who don't work and who live on benefits, and there is quite some difference in the income of this target group, and so we have different resale prices according to your income. Yeah, okay. Important also to understand is who is this group. As I said, it's working people, but also people who don't have an income from work, who are unemployed, for instance. It is a lot of diversity concerning the origin of the residents. There are, I think, if I remember correctly, more than 80 different countries of origin. And with a majority of people born in Africa, but we have residents from all corners of the world. A lot of single parent households also, and then people of all ages. But of course, as we do home ownership, people do have to have a mortgage, which makes it more difficult for elderly people and people above and elderly. It's more than 45 years. It becomes difficult to get a loan from the bank. So even if there's quite some variety, it is mainly between let's say 30 and 45 that people buy the home, but of course then the residents of people stay then later, so there is more diversity. One of the reasons, and then I guess Laura will talk about that too, one of the reasons we decided to go for the CALICO project and to have some all this complicated construction is because we wanted to, we thought that our approach to housing is very interesting for intergenerational living. But as we do only home ownership, that was not possible. And we do only home ownership because the subsidies we get from the Brussels region, it's only for home ownership. And in the European, with the European funding, but Laura will go into that deeper, it made it possible to experiment and do also rental units. So the members' participation in our operation is very important. I already said that they are represented in our governance structure. So 1/3 of the board members are residents. They are also represented in the General Assembly. And every year we try to have as much as members as possible to come to our General Assembly. We have different committees where they are represented, etc. We also involve the future residents in the design of the housing projects as far as possible. We invest a lot in training of the residents, especially before they move into their homes, but also afterwards. They are responsible for the management of their condominium. And then there are also, we support the members to organize community activities within their housing projects. Yeah, this is to show the training that we do, the training and the coaching. Maybe it's important to say before how it works, in fact, how we do the allocations of the homes and the preparation of the housing projects. So, well, normally social housing operators would sell or rent their homes once they are finished. In our case, we will allocate the homes as soon as possible, and typically 2 or 3 years before the homes are finished. And so we do, when we have a new project, we will organize a call, we will invite all our members, and then everyone who's interested can show his interest, and then we will allocate the homes looking into the seniority of those who are interested. It's only that's the only criterion. In CALICO, it was slightly different for some of the units, but there again, Laura can maybe tell something about that. But for the normal community land trust homes, you tell us if you're interested, and if you're the highest on the waiting list, the apartment will be for you, which means that people who come and live in these homes, they don't know the others. It's not like in co-housing projects or some cooperatives, for instance, where people come together because they have similar ideas and a similar vision. This is really people who are most of the people register mainly because they are looking for affordable housing and not because they love the CLT or something like that. It's really they are in need of housing, and most of them are on the waiting list for social housing and on the waiting list for other systems, and we are one of them. So people are selected. We will compose the group, the future residents, and from then on, there will be regular meetings where the goal is to, well, create some cohesion within the group, but also train the people on the building, so they learn how the building works, especially because all of these homes are new homes with a lot of techniques. It's passive buildings also, so train people on the correct use of the building. There is training on the management of the condominium. So that means what are your rights and obligations as a homeowner, but also how can you what decisions have to be taken by the condominium? How does it work? What do you have to pay, etc., etc. Also on the group. So how can you take decisions together? That's one important topic. And also the neighborhood. For most of the people, they lived in another neighborhood before, so it's try to already create some connections with other neighbors, other organizations in the neighborhood, etc. So this is an example of a workshop where we work on the design of the housing projects. This is an example of a flea market that is organized by the future residents in a neighborhood where there is not a lot of connections between the people living there, and their goal was to introduce themselves to their future neighbors by organizing every month this flea market. This is another example of an activity that is supported by the Community Land Trust team in order to build community. It is a group of women who come together every week to cook. It's called Green Canteen. Another example in one of our housing projects, it's after school tuition, in fact, where volunteers organize these classes every Thursday. This is our mobility project called Roue Libre. And there it is mostly about bicycles. So because, well, mobility is also an important part of good living. And a lot of the residents, especially the women, don't know how to use the bike. So it's also a lot of volunteers, among them people who had this training before, to organize these bicycle lessons, which is a very successful project. And that's only a few examples in all of our housing projects, in some more than in others, but in all of our housing projects, initiatives like this are taken and supported also by our team. For instance, we try to organize, if we have the financials for it, participatory budgets that can be used by the residents. This is an overview of our housing projects. So you can see it's not up to date, but for instance, you see that the CALICO project is not occupied in this plan. It's occupied for 2 years now, I think. But well, it gives you an overview. And as you see, so these are the 19 municipalities of the Brussels region. In theory, we could develop housing in all of these municipalities, but most of our projects are concentrated around the canal, which is in this industrial zone with a lot of the poorest neighborhoods, in fact, are concentrated there, and it's mostly in municipalities such as Molenbeek or Anderlecht that we develop our housing. This is a project called Arc-en-Ciel, 32 units, with on the ground level a community space, because we will also, as much as possible, integrate non-housing within our projects, especially on the ground level, for different reasons. Well, the first one is because there is a need for this. but also as a way of creating connections between our housing projects and the rest of the neighborhood. And thirdly, because this is a way of providing spaces for the residents to meet, because we are subsidized by the Brussels region to develop housing, but not for community space. So a solution is to develop spaces for neighborhood associations, for instance, who will buy or rent it. But then they agree that the residents can use the space in the evening, for instance, for their meetings. This is the same project. This is another of our first pilot projects. It's a smaller one, 7 units with a community garden, in Anderlecht. This project, the construction started 3 months ago. It's a very nice project situated near to the North Station, for those who know. Also with an interesting community space, because it is situated near to a new public park. In fact, our land gives to this new public park, and there is an antenna for the guardians of the park on our land, which can be used also by the residents. This project is called Indépendance, and it is one of our latest. It is, I think, some 22 units, and it is on top of a supermarket. But in fact, it's 2 buildings with an interior that you can see also that is very good quality housing. And this is CALICO. I won't tell you about this one. And then also, in fact, we also try to promote this idea of collective land ownership as an alternative for speculative markets. And so, for instance, one example is now we are working on an action research to promote the cooperative model in Brussels. There is another initiative called Fairground Brussels, which you will hear also from, I think Laura will talk about it too, because Fairground is, let's say, an investment cooperative that we created a few years ago together with other organizations. And the idea of Fairground is to do something similar as the community land trust, but for everything which is not home ownership. We receive, as I said already a few times, we receive funding from the Brussels region to do affordable home ownership. But we believe that a lot of other functions can be developed in the same way on community land trust out of the speculative market. And Fairground is a cooperative that has this goal. Until now, we mainly invested in housing for homeless, but there are other projects such as the Angela D project in CALICO. And this is also not very updated, but it is a map to show that now there are more and more community land trusts emerging in Europe, in different countries in Europe. And indeed, as you said in your introduction, there is recently also a European Community Land Trust Network that has been established to promote this new way of developing affordable housing. That's the end of my presentation.